Interesting news today out of the Pac-12, and that is that the Pac-12 and Apple have had recent conversations about a deal that obviously, as everybody is aware, would mean all streaming for the Pac-12. And I only half joke about, Gen Z and millennials and Gen Xers that like streaming, because one of the major sticking points in this conversation is overwhelmingly the presidents in the Pac-12 have made it clear they do not want to entertain media rights deals that are all streaming. Jake, is Apple a viable partner for the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, going 100% on Apple like MLS did is not going to work. That's not going to be an option for the Pac-12. I think the problem is that, again, it's this classic conundrum of the Pac-12 can't get a solid offer from a linear TV option. And so now they're forced into getting a bigger portion of the TV deal to come from a streaming partner. And the problem is, of course, that most of the streaming partners want very specific things. Apple wants an all or nothing package where you give them every single thing that you have to offer, or you don't work with them at all. Amazon wanted one game a week so that they could go NFL on Thursday, Pac-12 on Friday, and we're riding off into the sunset for the weekend type setup. That's what they wanted. And that obviously does not work for the Pac-12. So Apple is not a solution. And I don't think, it can ever be broached as a complete and utter savior of the Pac-12. Now, if Apple was smart, in my opinion, you would open it up a little bit and you'd be willing to have a conversation about, hey, game of the week or a couple games here or whatever. Like, very much like the Big Ten NBC Peacock situation where NBC is never going to put the game exclusively on Peacock,
right?
But it's going to cater to its customers or its viewers on the platform. And I really feel like Apple could benefit immensely from having something besides MLS when it comes to sports. Like, you need something to bring fresh eyeballs to your product.
But is MLS for Apple, is that a warning shot or is that just a toe in the water of streaming? Because I think all of us would agree that MLS has suffered, and I think Apple has suffered in that relationship, at least early on here with Apple TV and MLS, because as we've also heard, Apple's been disappointed with the subscription volume that has come from MLS. And I think when you look at Apple TV's subscription volume, a lot of it, as we found out, 50% of their subscribers are on free deals right now at Apple TV. That's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. So I don't know that I would call MLS on Apple TV an actual example. I think it's been an abject failure. Even just in the sphere or the realm of Apple, I think it's been an abject failure. Yes. I think the thing that really stands out is there wasn't a boom or a big push of paid subscribers to Apple content. And that's exactly why you did a deal with MLS, so that people would pay to be with MLS on Apple or pay for Apple to get MLS. And it does not appear either one of those has happened. There's a lot of people on T-Mobile deals, and that's been great for T-Mobile because their customers are getting free MLS. But really, at the end of the day, who is that helping? And I would tell you it's helping nobody. So if you're the Pac-12 and you know that you are fighting for your own survival, you are fighting to exist at this moment. Going to Apple doesn't seem like the all-in easy fix-it button, Jake, and I think that's my biggest concern about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Apple, it's really interesting, the T-Mobile side of the conversation with Apple, because you would think that if Apple was going to do a deal with a professional sports league in the MLS, that you would have considered that, hey, a lot of our viewers are coming from a free option we're giving them through T-Mobile, so we're not realizing revenue on that. So for the Pac-12, the other question I think that's really relevant in this money conversation is, like, whatever deal, like if you're George Kliavkoff, whatever deal you bring to the board and to the presidents and everyone, it has to be very clear how that's going to help them make money and how that's going to benefit them. Like, if you bring them a deal that's like, yeah, well, hey, your costs for your athletic budget were $1 and the TV deal is going to make you $1.01, that's not really going to move the needle a whole lot. But if you could bring them a TV deal that made them $2 or $3 in profit, that's obviously what you're looking for. But the tough part is there's really no path to that. How do you get to that when the President Costes of the world up in Washington have made it very clear, and as you said, most of the presidents in the Pac-12 are not interested in an all-streaming deal. How do you find the middle? And this has always been my point. There is no finding the middle. There is no, hey, yeah, we're going to get $90 million a year from ESPN, and then we're going to get 1 game a week from Amazon and 5 games a week from Apple. Like, you're not doing that. That's not how it works. And yet, all of this is happening, and you have the Big 12 operating, the Big 10 operating. You have the ACC presidents doing what they do. Like that's why I think the odds continue to rise that the Pac-12 struggles to survive as we know it. Do they keep 3-4 teams? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I don't see the Pac-12 keeping all 10 teams.
Well, and I think the bigger issue, if I'm the Pac-12, is you hear about MLS and Apple saying, hey, things are good. We're both happy with the relationship. But where are the subscriber numbers? Where are the viewer numbers? Where is the hard data to support the fact that MLS and Apple have been a successful partnership, especially early? And I think one of the things that you have to consider is it's early. I think streaming, and a lot of people think streaming is, the future. A lot of people think it's a fad, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But there's no question. In its life cycle, streaming is very early on. It's an infant, right? It's not a fully grown adult. It's in its infancy. So a deal like MLS and Apple TV is very young right now. We have no idea what the long-term ramifications for MLS is going to be if, in fact, we don't know. And I think the numbers are low. So if you're the Pac-12, can you afford to do a deal with somebody like Apple TV where the numbers have not been there to support? Is Apple TV willing to give the Pac-12 hard data? Is the Pac-12 asking Apple TV for hard data? Because, again, sources in television have told us that Apple TV and the Pac-12 have had conversations recently, that they have been talking about ways to do a deal. And the biggest sticking point remains that you have Arizona, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon, and Colorado. That's 5, half of the Pac-12 members that have said, no, we will not do an all streaming deal.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that, that's the biggest hurdle here is that you have a bunch of administrators who either don't understand or don't want to understand where and how they can win in an all streaming environment. And I agree that where you are in the Pac-12, I don't think all streaming on Apple TV is a good choice. I truly do not. If it were Amazon Prime Sports, I would be, hey, go all in. We've talked about that on this show. If it's Amazon, go all in. It's not Amazon. It's Apple. And that struggle is real. And I think the Pac-12 would be better suited doing a deal with ESPN Plus and doing a deal with the CW for regular distribution on a regional level than you would go all in on Apple TV streaming. I think those are just the hard realities. Mm-hmm. But here's the other thing. You're making decisions based on what you have to do instead of what you want to do. Because if you're the Pac-12 right now, what are you chasing? You're not chasing reach. You're not chasing a great partner. You're chasing the money.
Facts.
And anytime you are doing business and making decisions because you are desperate for the money, you're almost always going to make the wrong decision in life or in sports. If you are doing things because you are chasing that bread, bro, you are going to make a bad choice. And and again, there's conjecture here, but my sources and from people I've talked to, that's how I form my opinion. If they do a deal, if George goes to the table in the Pac-12 and says, hey, here's my final best, and it's Apple TV all in, he's not getting a grant of rights on that. And I think ultimately, if you can't get a grant of rights, what's the point of even bringing a deal to the table? Because trust me when I tell you, George Kliavkoff is well aware of what the parameters these 10 presidents have set forward for an acceptable TV deal are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think it's the mission's very clear, the expectations are very clear, and again, that's why I say, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, there is real credence to, hey, the conference is going to look very different or may not exist next year. And that's not because I don't like the Pac-12. That's not because I have some bias or anyone has bias. But I think that's what it was for a long time is, hey, oh, you guys just hate the Pac-12 or you love the Big 12 or you love the Big 10. And it's like, well, we're kind of down the road now and there's still no deal and we still haven't heard from George Kliavkoff and there's still no damage control happening in the media and these presidents are still talking. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. So that's why I say, like, I truly don't know how, like, because of the Apple situation and what they want versus what you're able to provide, because that's not a fit, because Amazon's not interested, and because ESPN is not going to give you $400 million a year, and because you're unwilling to do a regional deal with the CW for whatever the hell reason, you're not going to get a deal. And that's why I say there is no finding one. Someone here is going to have to acquiesce. Like George would have to say, yep, we're good with a regional deal. Or Apple would have to take a partial package. Or ESPN would have to come up with more money, which ain't going to happen.
But look at Ion TV. And this is the thing that perhaps is so stunning.
Yeah.
Brian Lawler, the president of Script Sports, has been on the show several times.
Mm-hmm.
But you continue to hear him on this show, and you've heard nothing about Ion TV or Script Sports as far as the Pac-12 goes. Las Vegas Golden Knights, Script Sports through Ion TV. The WNBA, Script Sports through Ion TV. They're doing deals, and they're doing the exact deal. And this is a part that I would guess as a Pac-12 fan is hard to digest. The WNBA did the exact deal that we're talking about with CW. Yet, if that deal was in place, wouldn't that have been done already?
Mm-hmm.
If there was a deal to be done where you had stream and you had linear TV, why wouldn't you have announced that already? You clearly would have. You clearly would have.
Yep.
I don't believe that deal is in place. I don't believe that deal is available. And everybody, listen, I can only go back and tell you who we've spoken to and why we believe what we believe. Brian Lawler has been on this show and has unequivocally, without hesitation, panned any idea that Script Sports and Ion TV are working towards an agreement with the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Gone out of his way. And I obviously I don't know Brian personally, but on a professional level, he's about as genuine as it gets. Brian Lawler. I don't see any way that Script Sports, unless something has completely changed, I don't see any way that Script Sports and Ion TV are doing a deal with the Pac-12.
Well, and it just comes right back to what George Kliavkoff is asking for, and again, it needs to be said, George, nobody should be saying, well, George is asking for too much because he's an idiot. George is a conduit. George is doing what the presidents in the Pac-12 are asking him to do. That's his job. So if they say, hey, go out and find us a TV deal for $400 million a year, not a penny less, that's what he has to work with. And that's why I say, as much as I disagree with a lot of the stuff he said, like the iconic back of the envelope stuff or anything that you want to go back to, this guy is a conduit, and the responsibility of this situation is not just on George Kliavkoff. It is in large part on the presidents in the Pac-12 and their decisions to not do certain things and to want to do others.
But if I had to ask you today, if you had to make a selection today, where do you think the Pac-12 TV deal ends up?
I don't think it ends up. I don't think they get a deal because I think when you have great, when the grass is greener on the other side of the fence in the Big 10 and the Big 12, and the momentum is building and those conferences are going in the right direction, and they're courting you, why would you not go? Why would you not go? Why, when you know? Because it would be one thing. It would be one thing if the Pac-12 TV deal had the opportunity to make, $40 million a year after the college football playoff and after, if these schools had that kind of opportunity. But we're talking about a TV deal that's struggling to get to 25 a year, and then you're going to struggle to get to 35 a year, let's say. And so I look at this and I say, okay, in the Big 12, you're pushing, 40, 42, 43, 44. You're in the mid-40s already. And that's before any of these new teams have done anything. So that's why I say if I had to take a guess on where the deal goes, I don't think you're going to get a deal because we know they're not interested in $90 million from ESPN. And you don't, what's the out? It's if you could go to Amazon and say, hey, Amazon, take a couple of games, then we'll kind of patchwork this thing, then I feel like, yeah, you might get a deal. But because it's so cut and dry, it's black and white, there's no flexibility in it, I don't know where they go.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be all streaming. If I had to guess today, I would think it would be a combination of streaming with ESPN and TV with ESPN.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a game or two on both. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't see an avenue now going forward where you can have, Apple TV cough up $300 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't see how that happens.
Yeah.
And again, I'm open to the idea that I'm completely wrong. But my instincts and the people I've spoken to tell me I don't see a straightforward, hey, these are the channels our games are on all season long.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I don't see like what NBC and Peacock announced yesterday. I don't see that with the Pac-12. I don't see. I just don't see how that's possible at this point, because if it was going to happen, if that was going to be the case, this would have been announced already. You would have seen this already, yet you don't see it, and it hasn't been announced. And you look at Apple, and I think Apple's hesitation has been going all in and doing a deal and then not being able to get a grant of rights.
Yeah.
I think that's bad for Apple. If you're going to get in bed with the Pac-12 and you have half the league that's going to say, yeah, we don't want to do business with those guys, that's a bad look for Apple. So if you're Apple TV, how excited are you to try and put that deal together? I don't think you're all that excited about it.
No,
I don't. And I think that's why you're hearing about Apple wanting to be at $200 million, which is not a number that's going to get it done in the Pac-12. And you're hearing about Apple not wanting to share streaming, and you're hearing about Apple, hey, if it's us, it's all us. If it's somebody else, it's none of us.
Yeah.
Like, Apple is not somebody that's willing to play nice in the sandbox with a competitor. But you also go back to the early times of these conversations, and you hear a guy saying, hey, well, look, there's Amazon. And I fully believed in November that we were going to get a Friday night Pac-12 game of the week on Amazon, like a tier 2 game. And I thought for certain that you would have ESPN, ABC, and ESPN Plus. I thought that was going to be your deal.
Yeah.
And it just has never grown and materialized. They went 2 months, the Pac-12 and ESPN, without talking. And you get into the new year, you get into January, February, March, and they've been talking regularly, and they haven't gotten close to a deal.
Hey, guys.
But they've been able to advance the on-field content for this season, right? Like, they're working together. It's just not they're not working together into the future. That's the biggest concern for me, is I don't see how you get an all-in deal if you're the Pac-12 at this point.
Well, and I think what's really interesting about it too is like if you're George Kliavkoff and you're the presidents in this conference, and you see, Brett Yormark doing all these things outside of the TV deal, right? So like, if you can't get the Big 12's TV deal or match that, okay, great, we're gonna fall short of that. But how can we make up that gap? How can we close the gap there? Well, there are a lot of ways you can close the gap. Like, that's one thing I think that doesn't get pointed out a lot, is how easy it is for a football conference, a Power 5 football conference, to make money and to do it in creative ways that don't involve TV partners. And I think this is sort of the untapped, I'm not going to call it a lifeline, but maybe an untapped way to cover that gap. Because if you have, let's say it's $20 million, just to use a round number for conversation's sake. You got $20 million a year, per school for your TV or distribution deal. How do you get to $40 million at the end of the year? That's the question. Because if they could figure that out, then survival's on the table.
Yeah. Rowdy Every Point gives us $10 to say, can we address the pink elephant in the room? Fox Sports lost so much money from Pac-12 Network, and then you lose the LA market. It's no wonder no one wants to sign a lucrative TV deal. Well, I think the Pac-12 Network lost so much money.
Yeah.
And I don't know that has the Pac-12 been a bad partner for its TV? Well, For ESPN and Fox, I don't think it was. If you're Comcast, sure they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, like the overpayment on carriage fees. And I mean, the Pac-12 is not easy to do business with. I've heard that repeatedly for a long time. I've heard repeatedly for a long time that there's disorganization, that there's not clear communication.
Yeah.
And I like, listen, I don't know that you're wrong about Fox, and I certainly would agree with you. Losing the LA market in the conference is crippling. As far as reach goes for TV partners, I think it's absolutely a real thing. And I think it's absolutely scary.
Yeah.
How about a big shout out to Marlon Shaw, who gives us 10 memberships today.
Let's go,
Let's
baby.
go, Marlon. Appreciate you. And Chris Evans and Scott Palmer and Renee Roca and John Evans and Kyle J, Jim Choi, Mark Hale, Stephen Smith. You guys all got free memberships from Marlon Shaw. Appreciate that, Marlon. Thank you so much. Anyway, all of this to say, I think it's really interesting that here we are. It's June 1st. And I know all the Pac-12 talking heads are being like, oh, it's done. It's going to be done. It's going to be announced.
Right.
Well, here we are on June 1st, and there's no deal.
Here I am.
And every day that we go without a deal, I think you are closer and closer to never getting a deal.
Yeah, it's ratcheting down on you.
I think you are closer and closer to never getting a deal. And I think when you hear about Arizona, ASU, Washington, Colorado that are not willing to do an all-streaming deal, I think you're every time you hear one of these news stories and you're just ticking forward to irrelevance. And I think for somebody that's covered this league since its inception, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's absolutely terrifying that you would have that. The favorite Floridian, Maury Alvarez, our favorite Floridian, says, I'm so looking forward to this drama to be done. The Pac says what you have and Pac say what you have and get it over with. We are getting to a point you just have to rip the Band-Aid off. But I don't know that they have a Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's the problem.
They got a bunch of scars, but I don't think they have any Band-Aids. Like, if you had a deal, you would have announced already.
Yeah.
But this goes, the Ray Anderson in Arizona State saying, well, we're going to announce a media deal, then get a grant of rights. No, you're not. You're going to get a grant of rights and then announce your media deal. Because nobody's signing a grant of rights if it's all Apple. Like, you're going to lose half the conference.
Yeah.
You're going to lose half the conference.
There's just no doubt. And that's why I say, like, you know, when we say something like, hey, where's this conference going? Well, I'm telling you it's going to not being a P5 anymore, and it's quickly eroding into not existing. That's my opinion, not being told that. But I worry that there's not a way out. Like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're going to roll out an embarrassing TV deal. You're getting $20 million a year. That would be embarrassing by anybody's measure.
By any stretch.
That would be utterly embarrassing. Okay, great. I'm a big believer, dude. If Brett Yormark can do it, so can the Pac-12. If Tony Petitti can do it, so can George Kliavkoff. The difference is that these presidents in the Pac-12 are a little bit stubborn and like themselves a good bit. And they're not willing to be like, hey, yeah, wow, maybe we do need to go a little bit different of a route. Maybe people in the TV world aren't so liberal with spending their dollars, and maybe we did get beat, and maybe these things did happen, right? It's like the old, Eminem stance, right? Admit all the things that you failed at, admit all the things that are terrible about you, so then the media can't be like, hey, this, that, and the other. Right? Just get after it, get it out there.
You can't blackmail me with something that everybody knows about,
yeah,
right?
Like just get it out there, and then let's start moving to how we can close the gap or form a bridge.
Yep. Marlon Shaw says, remind me what the definition of insanity is. Is that not what is going on in the Pac-TV negotiations? It is. Doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy to me.
Yep.
Hey, where have you been, McCluskey?
Yeah, well.
Let's go. The mayor is back. I have talked to the Pac-12, and we have a deal. We're bringing in the powerhouse Utah Tech. Sleeping giant in this state. I'm telling you.
So on brand, dude.
I'm telling you. Truck Stop Gumby says crocodile tears. I like it. Bryce Martin. If they sign a grant of rights, someone's going to have to give something up, and not everyone's going to be happy.
Agreed.
No, I totally agree with that.
Agreed.
Shasak123. Shasak.
Fuck are you? Apologize to that man.
See, when you choke on your own, I'll stop. Would it help if Apple took the whole package?
Bro, this is a family program, dude. Come
and
on.
sublease to Fox for 50%. See, this has been brought up a lot. Here's the problem, though. Where is Fox going to put that inventory? Especially during football season. Where does Fox put that inventory? Where does ESPN? Where does CBS, NBC? Think about all these places. Those major sports brands already are scheduled out for the entire season.
Yeah.
So you have blocks where you could potentially place that next season. But if you're CBS, Fox, and NBC, you know what those blocks are going to be. That's all going to be Big Ten all day long. Okay, let's surmise that Fox on a Saturday night would play a late night football game.
Yeah.
Well, do you really want to compete against your partners at NBC? Are you trying to do that with Big Ten After Dark? You're competing with NBC? You're not going to do that. Okay, so let's say Fox is not available. And I don't think they are, by the way. If you're ESPN, you probably would like to have a football game instead of SportsCenter or instead of college football wrap-up. But those two shows do really well on the bar scene, right? Like those two shows, people are going to watch because it's a highlight show. Why do bars, and people think I'm crazy every time I bring this up. Why do bars want SportsCenter and college football wrap-up and NFL, NFL wrap-up or NFL Live or all the highlight shows? Why do you think bars want that content? Well, because Jimmy and Frank are going to sit there and they're going to have an extra Coors Light draft waiting for the Michigan highlights, waiting for the Utah highlights, waiting for the SC highlights.
Yeah.
They're going to sit there and they're going to talk and they're going to debate. And they're going to say, well, hey, you know what? USC and Utah are both undefeated. Holy cow, I wonder what happened in the Utah game. I wonder what happened in the SC game. I wonder what happened in the BYU game. Like, you sit there and you wait. It is proven that dudes will sit at the bar and wait for it. They'll order more quesadillos.
Yes.
They'll order more street tacos. They'll order more fries and beer.
More Tex-Mex egg rolls.
But if you have on Oregon State and your mom's technical eyelash plucking school of technical institution and stuff.
Oh, what are you talking about, man?
They're not going to sit there.
Yeah.
That's why bars love highlight shows.
Yeah.
If you walk down Mill Avenue on a Saturday night in Tempe and Arizona State's not playing, you're going to see a bunch of dudes standing outside of a bar because it's 100 degrees. You're going to see a bunch of dudes standing outside of a bar watching highlights on SportsCenter.
I'm a man.
Try it sometime. Trust me when I tell you.
Trust me, bro.
Why do you think like all of the Shake Shacks, all the taco shacks, all the burger joints, why do you think they all have outward-facing TVs in warm weather climates? Because dudes will stand there.
Yes.
In Arizona, Cold Beers and Cheeseburgers in Old Town Scottsdale has an entire row of TVs.
Facts.
That you can stand on the sidewalk and you can watch.
Yes.
Because people will come in. People see it. They'll come in. They'll eat. They'll drink. Like, I'm telling you.
Yes.
This is the thing with the MLS deal. And Shasak, I think that's a really good point. I just don't think you can compare the two. I really don't. And I think that's the biggest question. Cougar Tracks. It will be set up where BYU plays at 8:30 at night, followed by 11:30 by a Pac game. I don't know about 11:30.
11:30 is a little late, bro.
No. The favorite Floridian. Oh, I already read that one, but I thank you for calling yourself what we call you. Jeremy Callahan, power troll on board. Okay. Is there a power troll on board? Kurt Myers, PBS after the Jim Lair News Hour. Remember that? I think, isn't he dead? I think Jim Lair is dead. I could be wrong. As the Pac-12 burns, badminton of the nines. Badminton of the nines. Okay. I'm feeling it. Tom Dean, how are you, Tom? Teams don't leave a conference because they don't get X dollars per se. They leave because the competition is getting more and they want to keep up. I don't disagree with that. I don't think it. I think that's exactly right. You're not going to leave a conference because of what you're getting. You're going to leave a conference because of what your competitor's getting. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Saul Goodman says Brett Yormark is a better man than George K. will ever be.
Nick Saban is a better man than you are.
Absolutely. Let's see. Jeremy Callahan says call a Rado.
Okay.
Colorado.
Right.
Okay. I'm not sure what you
Good
mean.
talk.
I don't know what you mean by that. The big three-legged R-rated superstar. Big Daddy Matt. That name's too long to read, dude. Says Apple sucks. Why do you hate Apple? How does Apple suck already?
Are you an Android guy?
Yeah, you know. Rowdy Every Point gives us $5 to say I ain't spending money for Apple TV. Plus, I own Android devices. I will happily watch Boise State versus Air Force here in Clemson, South Carolina.
Kiss my butt.
Congratulations, by the way, in Clemson on winning the ACC championship.
Yeah, that was a really great season, man.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
ACC stands for Already Crowned Clemson.
Phenomenal.
San Diego State Aztec Warrior gives us a $5 tip. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Always appreciate the cash. Jim Choi says, thank you, Marlon. Yes, Marlon gifted memberships today. Zesties, Retro, and Games. What percentage are you now on the Pack losing teams? I'm like 90-10 the Pack's going to lose teams.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to collapse? That's a different conversation. Pete and Laura Hero say YouTube TV is not streaming its wireless cable package.
Bro, what are you talking about, bro? Bro, what?
Isn't a wireless...
Okay, do we really need to define what streaming is?
I think by the very definition of a wireless cable package, isn't that streaming? I don't know. I'm all in on YouTube TV. I'm a subscriber, you know. But hey, you go with you. Truck Stop Gumby. Monty's been covering the Pack since the 50s. Well, certainly since the expansion. And I never thought this conference would get here. It is stunning to me. And I know we say this all the time, but it is stunning to me. The Pac-12 is here. It shocking, stunning, surprising.
Yeah.
Just awestruck.
Yeah.
Because it's all self-inflicted. All of these issues, whether it's Comcast, the Holiday Bowl, any of this other shit that's continually coming up.
The Holiday Bowl.
Nobody liked Larry Scott. He paid too much and spent too much and didn't make enough. All self-inflicted. Lawyers in the replay booth, all self-inflicted. Every one of them. Back of the envelope calculations. Self-inflicted.
Bro, you said lawyers in the replay booth,
dude,
bro.
If you think about the lengths that the Pac-12 has had to go to screw it up this bad.
Back of the envelope calculations.
Think about how many mistakes they've made. Think about how much poor judgment. Think about how many stupid checks have been and will be written.
Yeah.
How much money are you not making because of the stupid mistakes you made? Just think about that.
Yeah.
Think about how the Pac-12 got here, because it is shocking.
Yeah, they had to mess it up a lot. There's no doubt, dude. No doubt about it.
You are not kidding at all. Jim Choi, maybe it's just certain presidents like Stanford. I think, let's get into this conversation. Is streaming the future of television?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Because there's a large swath of sports fandom that says it's not.
Mm-hmm.
There's a large swath of people, granted, it's a lot of older Americans,
mm-hmm.
that'll tell you, hey, streaming, it's a fad. I mean, come on. Look at my collar.
Because it's garbage.
cufflinks and I got a triple button. Like, they're going to tell you that's not how I did it growing up, and that's not how it's going to be for my grandkids and their kids. I don't see a scenario 10 years from now where people still plug a cable into the wall that doesn't provide them internet. You're not going to, I don't think you're going to have dishes on the outside of your house in 10 years. No. I don't believe that you'll have cable boxes on your entertainment centers. I don't believe, frankly, the industry has spent far too much money on smart TVs for streaming to just be kind of a fad that hangs around for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, well, and I think the obvious thing here is it is older folks saying that streaming is not the way, even though they're in no position to talk about it. I mean, you don't use the product. You have no idea about the product. I can't tell you how many people are completely ignorant to how YouTube works from a creator standpoint. No, like, it's incredible to me how many people have no idea how YouTube works when it comes to the mechanics and, all the stuff it takes to create a good channel. And I look at this and I say, okay, so it used to be that hey, do we really need DVRs? I remember growing up I think it was like before I was even 10, this conversation was happening. Holy cow, do we need DVRs? DVRs are not even possible. Can't do it, dude. It's just not possible. And then all of a sudden, DVRs rolled out, and the TV industry was revolutionized because nobody cares about commercials during their weekly episode of Friends. And so now it's like we're doing this all over again. Now we're just not talking about skipping commercials. We're talking about leaving DirecTV altogether. We're talking about leaving Dish Network altogether.
Yeah.
And what's funny to me is everyone's like, oh, streaming's just a fad. And, it's just YouTube. Right, but that's why there's more streaming platforms than TV networks now. But
I think it is the level of comfort. I'll be honest with you and tell you, I love my, whatever. I think I have a 70-inch TV, whatever the hell it is. I love my TV.
Yeah, it's a big TV.
But I watch far more content on my phone than I do anywhere else. Whether that is TikTok, Twitter. By the way, Twitter streams a baseball game. By the way, like you have all of this content that's available to you on mobile phones, and I do think, and I don't know if we want to call it baby boomers or whatever you want to call it or whatever you want to say it is or how old people are.
Yeah,
I think your older generations, your 65 plus, have no desire to unplug their cable box from the TV and go to the internet,
and that's okay, right? I mean, I think that's the other thing here. It's okay if the older generation right now doesn't want to adjust because, frankly, they're no longer in their prime money-making years, right? Most of them, right? The TV industry, the Foxes and the ESPNs and the CBSs and the NBCs, they want 25 to 55 years old making that bread, bro. That's what they want.
And I don't know how you fix this because what I'm telling you is, I don't mean to keep telling you, well, hey, here's who I know. That's not what I'm trying to do. Everybody I know that works in the TV industry, which, by the way, I've worked at Fox, I've worked at ESPN. I know, I have relationships across the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is all in and pointed towards stream only. The days of satellite uplinks, sure, you could still have dude in his backyard with a massive satellite dish. Maybe that still is a thing. I think we're moving away from that. No. I think we are moving away. I think DirecTV, you look at HBO or what did they rebrand it as? Max?
Max.
You look at Max now. I think Max, if you want to watch Succession, you're going to have to do it on an app. Mm-hmm. Whether that's on your smart TV, your phone, your tablet, whatever that might be. I think the days of HBO as part of your entertainment bundle on your cable system, I think those days will come to an end down the line. But Comcast Cable will absolutely still be a provider.
Yeah.
DirecTV, I watch a lot of DirecTV through an app on my phone. I have the DirecTV streaming app on my phone. I watch it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I can watch my DVR on my phone. That's the future. That's what we're talking about. So when we get into these conversations about streaming or not streaming or the future, I don't see a reality, maybe even 5 years from now, like ESPN is a great example of this. ESPN, I think the term is DTC, direct to consumer.
Right.
I don't see a way that ESPN is not direct to your phone, smart TV, or tablet in the next 3 years. Mm-hmm. I think ESPN is going to give you the ability in the next 3 years to say, hey, here's my $20 a month. Give me everything you got. UFC,
Yes.
WWE, give me everything you have on my phone. ESPN provides it. SEC football, roll tide, right? Like
Nick Saban
SEC.
is a better man than you are.
SEC football, Big 12 football, Big 12 basketball,
Yeah.
the NBA, the NHL, it'll all be on your phone. $20 a month, you get everything that they have. Furthermore, you look at what YouTube TV and the NFL Sunday Ticket are doing.
Dude.
I don't know how many people saw the announcement this week. Everybody was really concerned about, hey, I want to be able to watch games on multiple devices on Sunday Ticket like we could at DirecTV. YouTube TV said, hey, that's a really good idea. Done. This week, YouTube TV said you can stream on multiple devices with one account. So if you have your TV, your tablet, your phone, and let's say a smart screen, because now these smart displays are coming out. You can stream NFL Sunday Ticket, different games on all of those units. Like, I'm telling you, folks, the infrastructure's in place. So you may think that streaming is not the reality or it's not the future. I'm here to tell you, I believe it's the only future.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing is reaching people is changing. Like the way that DirecTV reaches people and reaches the same number of people is changing. You think about where young people are at right now. There are a lot of people. I know plenty of people who simply don't have TVs.
Yeah.
Right. Who live off their MacBook Pros and their iPhones and their Droid-based stuff. Like, I know people like that, and that's becoming more commonplace as the world gets more expensive. Like, it's no secret. Like, people are being conservative with money, so we're not getting, hey, we're going out and buying 80-inch TVs left and right and TV. Like, we're not doing that anymore. We would rather save the money, watch it on our phone, and have a nice time.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what it is.
Hundo P, bruh. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you believe that streaming is a fad or is it the future? Because it's been pretty amazing over the last couple of weeks to see so many people saying, oh, it's a fad. It's a fad. We're always going to have cable. One guy compared it to NFTs. Another guy compared it to crypto. But here's the thing. Who really was into NFTs? Non-fungible tokens.
The 1%.
The 1%er, the guy who had billions. The Gary Vaynerchuks of the world. Those guys were into NFTs, right? Do you really understand how an NFT works? Do you know how to create an NFT? 9 out of 10 people do not. Completely different deal. But if I said to you, hey, I need you to pull up YouTube on your phone, could you do it in less than a minute? I can absolutely do it in about 30 seconds. But I use YouTube every day. The garden variety consumer. And again, I'll just point you to Gen Z, the future of our country, right? Look at this right here. This is the most popular brands with Gen Z. Do you guys see what the top 4 are? Those are all streaming companies, man. YouTube, Google, Netflix, and Amazon. Those are all streaming companies. By the way, is Walmart involved in streaming? Yeah, pretty heavily they are. Like, you look up and down this list, man, and you look at the Nintendos of the world. By the way, I would also remind you, look at the bottom of that list. Let me get this off the screen. Look at the bottom of that list right there. Look at number 20, Apple. That's a streaming business. Pixar creates streaming content. Look at all of the streamers. Disney's on that list. Instagram's on that list. Hulu's on that list. Nintendo, PlayStation. Look at all the streaming content that's on that list.
Yes.
And tell me that streaming isn't absolutely the future.
Yes.
And you look at this Pac-12 situation, you look at this Big 12 situation, bro, if you're not streaming and you look at Gen Z, who's the generation one after mine.
After me. No,
Or
it's
after you.
millennials.
So it's I'm Gen X.
You're Gen X.
You're
I'm
millennial.
a millennial. Gen Z is my kids.
So the teenagers now,
Yes.
the young people now that are going to power the future, look at all of them on YouTube. Number 1, 86% of Gen Z has a favorable outlook of YouTube.
And then you're going to wonder why the Jake Pauls of the world have blown up.
It's unbelievable to me.
Not rocket science.
It's unbelievable that young people, they don't. I mean, when's the last time, if you have a 15-year-old in your house, how difficult is it to get them to sit down at the dinner table and forget that they have a phone? Furthermore, how difficult is it for you, your wife, or your husband? How difficult is it for you guys not to have your phones in your hand when you're sitting on the couch or you're eating dinner, or because I can tell you in my house it's a battle. It's like I have to consciously put my phone down and not think about it and have quality time with my wife. How many of us are addicted to our cell phones? And I think that's a vast majority of us. So then you look at the Pac-12 and this media deal with the Pac-12. I'm addicted to my cell phone, and I'm a Pac-12 fan, and I can't watch your content on my cell phone this next year from now. I won't be able to watch content on my phone. I can't fathom that.
Yeah.
Because I can watch baseball, I can watch the NBA, I can watch MLS, I can watch NHL, I can watch the Premier League, like F1 over and over. F1, how did F1, Formula One racing, how did F1 get to North America? Well, if you really look at their arrival, it was Netflix. Drive to Survive, a streaming show that's in season 3 or 4 now. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, and you know what they all do? And I know it's going to sound crazy, and you're probably not going to believe me, but you should believe me. They all eat Buck bars from Bucked Up, man. Look at it. Look at it. There it is, the salted caramel peanut Buck bar.
Boom.
And it is spectacular. So many people were saying, oh, you guys, you're just talking about it. Dude, this bar is awesome. This is my favorite bar. It's got 17 grams of protein, 12 net carbs, and only 7 grams of fat.
What do you bench?
And we talk about all the time the ingredients in these bars, I think, are a huge discussion point. The number one ingredient, and if you don't know this, they list the ingredients by volume on the package of any food item that you're going to eat. The number one ingredient in this bar, whey protein isolate. The number 2 ingredient, whey protein concentrate.
I'm for real.
Like, when you get a protein bar, I would think you want the very best ingredients, including protein. You get that. You know what else I love? You don't see a ton of raw sugar in these bars, right? You see tapioca fiber.
Yeah.
You see things like dark chocolate. You see potassium. You see sea salt. You see dates. You see peanuts. You see whole ingredients, things like dates that help give you that sweeter taste that everybody loves nowadays. That's not raw sugar. That's not confection sugar. That's not going to, spike your insulin. And these bars are amazing, you guys. It is my go-to bar now. You can get them for free. Go and get a sampler pack of these bars. They'll send them right to your front door for free. In the description below, click the link. The bars are unbelievable. I've also got a description link in the description for Buckshot, which, by the way, we love them so much. Why don't you get me a Buckshot out the fridge today?
Can't do that, dude.
Oh, that's right. We're out. We ran through them. Whose job was it to replace them?
Keep it real.
Wasn't mine. I got
They're
them all
at
in
my
my
house,
fridge
bro.
at home,
That's my
man.
bad. That's my
right?
bad.
So my point is they're good. We use them. We're out of the Buckshot. That's what I love about Bucked Up. Their stuff works. Buckshot is long-lasting, clean energy that'll get you through your day. Get them free in the description below. Click the link. They'll send them right to your door for free. Click the link on the bars. Get a sampler pack for free. They'll send them right to your door. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show.